Welcome to Victory Sunday. Gosh, it feels great to say that. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Bucs Report. Welcome to a Sunday morning cup of Ray. Harry the Greek and I are sitting out here on a deck barn grill. How's that sun starting to feel right about now?
It's absolutely gorgeous.
It is a beautiful day, and it's a beautiful day in Tampa Bay because the Buccaneers come out victorious against the Washington football team last evening, 31-23, win by 8 points. Of course, you know, that was kind of the narrative all week, Harry, was that defensive line, what Ron Rivera's done there. And, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about the history between Ron Rivera and Bruce Arians. I know that game's already in the rear view, but these two go way back. In fact, it was like back in the literally 92, I believe it was Ron Rivera's last year with the Bears that he was playing, of course, playing defense with the Bears. And Bruce Arians was a rookie running back coach, if you will, or a rookie coach in the NFL as a running back coach with the Kansas City Chiefs. The teams actually play that year. But then we're talking about the history as they started to get into Ron with the Carolina Panthers in his coaching career. Before that, though, he was a defensive coordinator with the San Diego Chargers, and there's a history there with Bruce Arians. And then, of course, last night they pointed out on the broadcast that, you know, Ron Rivera, basically as of recent, in 2015, the quarterback, can't even remember. He's so out of it. You know, Cam Newton, who wins the MVP that year, most valuable player. The Panthers get all the way to the Super Bowl. And, of course, they beat the Cardinals that season in the playoffs, and Ron Rivera had a better record. But, of course, last night the Buccaneers come out on top, beating those Washington football teams 31-23.
Those stats were just so last year or 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But they did win.
It was close.
And you know what? Washington's defense played really well, but that's not who they struggled. I'm telling you what, Tampa's offensive line did a hell of a job in that game.
Oof.
You know where Tampa struggled? Was
Where?
stopping Washington's offense with some guy that's supposed to hold a beer bottle.
Which is surprising, though, because we know the Buccaneers defense usually has a lot of success against rookie and or off-the-street signed quarterbacks. But that's the narrative, right? It seems like you give Todd Bowles a lot of film on a defense. Todd Bowles has a chance to game plan for a defense, but you put in a wild card. Of course, the Washington announces yesterday that Alex Smith is still having, and you talk about players having leg problems. We're going to work it back to Rojo. We're going to have to talk about that too. And I know you got an opinion about that, but of course, Alex Smith ends up being deactivated or not active for the game yesterday. So yeah, they play against Heineke, who's, I think he talked about last night, a little story. Who's on the, what was it, back in, you know, whenever he was on the New England Patriots practice squad, he shows up at the shop there. Brady's already in at 5:30 in the morning watching film, and he gets to meet him. Tom's like, who the heck are you? And he's like, oh, I'm, you know, practice squad. And he said he got a chance to break down film with Tom Brady for about a half an hour, which we talked about that going into this season when Reed Sinnett, who, by the way, Reed, again, congratulations, gets the backup behind Tua Tagovailoa last week in Miami.
How about just Tua? It's so much easier, folks. Tua. I couldn't pronounce his last name if you paid me.
And the thing is, you look at it, Tagovailoa, you think you can pronounce it.
I've heard people say Tunga Viola. I've heard so many different pronunciations. I just wish he would come out and actually say, look, this is how you pronounce my last name. We got to know it first, of course. He's been at Alabama before he has a big injury, but it was Tank for Tua. So every time I say Tua alone, I want to say Tank for Tua. But talking about the fact that, again, Heineke was with the Carolina Panthers at one point, so he's got a familiarity with Ryan. He's running Scott Turner's offense, which is Scott Turner being Norv Turner's offense, and Norv Turner going back to the Cowboys and all the great offenses they had back in the day. But, you know, Heineke had some success against the Bucs last night. And, you know, depending again on how Chicago and going back, you and I talked about this yesterday. Go back to week 6, and of course the NFL Network ran the game this week. The Bears take the Saints to overtime in week 6. It's 23-all at the end of regulation. The Saints end up ultimately winning that game, and that was either the first or second of 5 losses in a row for those Bears, who climbed back in those playoffs. But you talk about a great game to look forward to today, and not just because of the implications it could have on the Bucs. It's going to be a really big game. It's definitely the largest point spread. No one's given Chicago a chance in this game. But I beg to differ. Read the jacket, folks. There's a lot of Bear fans in Tampa Bay right now.
Well, there are.
And
of course, and we'll just go ahead. You guys know this. We all know this with the Bucs having won last night, making it to next week's divisional round. If the Bears can show up again there, and again, that game in week 6 was at Soldier Field.
No.
Was it at New Orleans?
Oh, yep.
Okay, so the Bears take New Orleans to overtime there in weeks. I want to say it was week 6 because I believe the Bears were 3-2. No, they were 4-1. 4-1. We're getting a call here. I'm not going to answer. Should I answer that?
No, please. It's a telemarketer. Can I grab this?
If I answer it, lets them know that they've got an active number, but it's worth it for the show. So let's go ahead and do this.
Hi, caller. Where are you calling from?
Morning, fellas.
Oh, you says it. You know what? It actually said telemarketer.
I know, Pat. I know you. Do you produce that when you call out, or is that something my phone's misreading? Okay.
It's a telemarketer.
It might be something your phone's greeting because I'm just calling you regularly.
Brother, it's good to hear from you. Happy New Year. Haven't seen you since just before the New Year. How are you and how's everybody doing?
I'm good, man. Heading to Orlando to go play some golf this afternoon, but otherwise than that, pretty good.
But I know definitely when you're driving to Orlando, you're going to be tuned into that Bear game at about 3:30, aren't you, Pat?
Yeah. difference between a home playoff game or going to New Orleans.
Yeah, and of course, isn't there also that third option?
No, there isn't. It's determined. If
Well,
New
no,
Orleans,
Well, if the Saints win, of course, the Rams are already going to Green Bay no matter what, unless it turns the other way. So, yeah, I apologize. I thought there was 3 scenarios. So Pat, great day to play a round of golf. Hopefully this wind, it's a little breezy out here.
are you kidding me? Pat's not interested in golfing. Pat's going out there to drink. If anybody knows Pat's going to tip a couple and then drive a couple of balls, aren't you, Pat?
Depends on the kind of the golf cart.
It depends if it can.
I didn't bring the Jameson with me.
See, I was lost when Harry said drive a couple of balls. I'm like, where are we going with this? But Pat, what was your biggest takeaway from last night's victory there in Washington against those football teams?
And before you answer that, don't tell him talking me off the ledge because I couldn't sit in the fourth quarter to watch the game. I was from outside. You can tell him that story if you want, but just don't get too detailed.
Go ahead, do it. Tell us the story, Pat.
Well, the thing is, Ray, when the Bucs finally got moving in the fourth quarter, Harry was on the phone with me sitting outside smoking a cigarette.
Yep. Nope. So he's walking you through play-by-play. Nice.
Pretty much. But, I mean, the keys of the game for me, because I watched the game last night, the cornerbacks are playing, again, a little too soft. We had a couple big key drops last night. And watching the defense last night, Minter played well, but he's not Devin White.
Yes.
We missed the speed. We missed the coverage because there was some balls thrown to Logan Thomas that should have been tackled for a loss if Devin White was covering him.
Yep.
The O-line played great last night.
Oh my God.
They made Donovan Smith made Allen, his without saying the word on air.
Yes.
But I mean, Tristan Wirfs played great.
Ali Marpet.
I just hope Marpet's injury's not too bad.
You know what, Pat? I got to tell you something. We were talking about that last night. With the right guard going down, and they brought in Larson. I'm telling you, the guy's very serviceable. I mean, yes, he did give up that one play where he showed the guy his cheeks. As Blake would say. Well,
they had contained Payne majority of the game until Larson came in, and then he got a little bit more pressure on Larson than he did on Marpet.
Hey, Pat, can I ask you a question real quick? So,
Shoot.
First half of that game, I swear to gosh, I wanted to, if I had like statistical data at my fingertips, database where I could do the search, I had pre-search. That first half of that game looked exactly like many times I'd seen the New England Patriots in the playoffs, coming out with the run, the pass, the screen pass, the run, the pass, setting up everything perfectly, having that defensive line on their heels, trying to figure out what's going to happen next. Did you notice, or was it me? Was there a reason the Bucs went away from the screen pass in the second half? Because in the first half, every time they hit Fournette in the screen, he was going for seemed like on an average 12 to 15 yards.
Well, they were running. It just seemed like they were running Josh McDaniels' offense. Run the ball 6, 7, 8 yards would set up the play action. And that one screen to Fournette, where he gained, I think it was 17 yards.
Right. That was in the fourth. That was in the fourth quarter, though, correct?
Well, they also did that midway through the second, early in the third. I think what it is they took offensively wise, I think they took the pedal off a little bit going into the second half because they came out like they would normally do in the first quarter of majority of their games.
Right.
It came out flat. They had 3 and outs to start the third quarter.
That's a great.
And that gave Washington momentum because they went down, they kicked a field goal, they got a 3 and out,
yeah,
and they went down and scored.
Pat, that's a great point because that is exactly what I was thinking to a T, but you put words to it like you so eloquently do, is that the Buccaneers came out in that third quarter and looked basically like they did in like 65% of their games this entire season, getting to that 11-5 record. They came out flat, and that Washington football team started, and that defensive line started to get this belief, we got a shot and we're in this. And I know they did go back to the screen in the fourth quarter, but they did. I got to go back and watch the game, and I will. I've watched it twice already. I don't think they threw a screen in that third quarter, and that's part of what Pat's saying, where they took that foot off that gas a little bit.
Here's something that people don't realize, okay? The Washington football team led the league in points allowed in the second half. Are you sitting down? 44. 44 points for the entire season. And they stifled Tampa in that third quarter.
They said they made great adjustments, Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera in that defense. I mean, you're talking about, that's the reason why I was literally all week, we were so excited to get to this. Oh, we're playing against the NFC least, the below 500 Washington football team. But we're looking over there and we see Jack Del Rio and we see Ron Rivera and we see 4 number ones on that D line. And we're like, okay, but then why do they, Pat? Why do they take the foot off the gas pedal in the third quarter? Why don't you get that killer instinct and just continue to drive it down your throat?
Because I don't know if they, I don't know. I can't say that they did take the foot off the gas because they were going up and down the field on Washington. There were plays and drives where we look like the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then there was times driving, we look like the Kansas City Chiefs or, anybody like that. The problem is they didn't. Yeah, Roach, he got 17 carries last night for Fournette, and I feel bad for Keyshawn Vaughn when he fumbled that ball because you didn't really see him until the end of the game when they were kneeling. If we go to New Orleans or if we come here back to them play the Rams, we have got to stay on the gas pedal. We cannot let up because we're going to play 2 better defenses, either way scenario, and we've got to stay on it.
You know what? I got to kind of agree with you. Let's go back to the Keyshawn Vaughn. That experiment's over, Pat. You and I were talking about that last night. Yes, he's going to be he's going to be a really, he's not a bust. The kid's going to be a really good running back in the National Football League. I just think that this stage is too big for him, and they're trying to get him some playing time. But I got a wrinkle for you, little brother. Where in the world was Shady McCoy? I understand it's an undisclosed illness. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
According to my reports, and I got a buddy of mine, Doug Wechter, who does the Rays and he works for the Bucs as well. He had a stomach virus on Friday, and they didn't want to take any chances because it could have been COVID, but it ended up being non-COVID. So he should be okay for next week. But I'm telling you right now, all the trade reports about the Tampa letting Fournette go next year, trade him for a second or third, I think he just earned his way on this team next year.
Yeah, hey, let me ask
Rojo.
Pat, Rojo, you talk about that. We're talking about that quad injury, and of course, we were talking about that this morning on our pre-production meeting because he comes back from the finger. They show him on the bench, and he's actually in the one shot of Rojo on the bench. They showed him a couple times. He's holding that hand, right? It's in that special glove. So we know that finger's still a thing. Probably feels a lot better when he gets out there and it's working. But he stayed on that bench, and we didn't realize in retrospect he's probably keeping that quad nice and warm and keeping it out of that cold air. Do you think Rojo's going to be okay to come back for next week's game?
Well, from what I've heard, he re-injured the quad in pregame. He was out there running and he made a cut, and he said, They
don't know if he tore the quad or not. He might be done.
They don't know
That's
if
the whole
he tore
thing.
the quad. He could be done for the playoffs. He could miss a week. They don't know yet until they get an MRI.
I would hate to see.
He definitely re-injured the quad during pregame.
It would be a real shame if the victim of volume isn't able to play. Seriously, that's just a shame. He's the best running back on this football team. He is the bell cow. But you know what? They have 2 number 1 running backs. They have 2 number 1s. There's a 1A and a 1B.
Yeah, and I love what Pat, and I like what you say, Pat, because we've talked about what are the Bucs going to do with Chris Godwin as a free agent. I think Chris Godwin is starting to make that. I've always been a believer in Chris Godwin. I know we are. But you try to start figuring out how much of a lesser salary cap will the NFL carry into 2021 because of the COVID 2020 season. How can the Bucs afford to have both Chris Godwin as a free agent, sign him, and keep Mike Evans? But I think that because of the running back market, there'll be a team out there
They may have seen enough of Leonard Fournette to want to bring him in there, but the Buccaneers definitely want to keep that guy back here because Leonard Fournette is a workhorse.
Yeah, we got a lot of priorities in the offseason because of the COVID, like you mentioned, the NFL salary cap is going to come down $175 million.
Down from 193, I think, where it was this year.
Yeah, Mike Evans has already taken 2 or 3 pay cuts already. So Godwin is the number one priority. I'd like to see them bring Gronk back, but he's probably going to want 10 to 12 million for 1 year. And to be honest with you right now, we got to try to re-sign Antonio Brown. This guy is playing lights out right now. He's staying clean.
And they forgot about him. And they forgot about him after that first quarter. He had a couple of catches, but Pat, I mean, I absolutely loved when he ran that fly pattern and put that double move on him. Oh. And then all of a sudden, the safety, it looked like a basketball game that Michael Jordan crossed somebody over. I mean, he had no chance. He caught the ball. He couldn't believe he was so wide open. He almost fell down, and he's like, this was easy.
Well, and here's the thing, Pat, again.
Hey,
go ahead.
Did you see where he had to come back to the ball, though?
Yes, I did notice that.
He outran Brady's pass.
Oh, yeah. Well, but again, I go back to what you're talking about when he has that early success in the first half. And the only thing I saw, other than you can only imagine, like you said, Washington's defense is so good at adjusting at halftime. But in the first half, it was the run, it was the screen, it was the pass. It was the run, screen, pass, play action. In the second half, when we talk about them taking the foot off the gas a little bit, that screen pass was not there, which literally seemed to take a form of that play action away from them. They went a little bit more empty backfield, and I think that makes them less of a, not I want to say one-dimensional offense, because this is still a pretty dynamic offense.
They're a pass-first offense.
Yeah,
let's just face that. I mean, if they want to be successful in the playoffs, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. Believe me, I wasn't being rude. Pat and I have been discussing, amongst other people, Tampa fans need to stop clamoring for more of a run game. This is not what this team does. They pass to set up the run. Okay, whether it comes back to bite them and where is yet to be determined. But when they do run the ball, they're very successful. And I don't know why, personally, that they're not running the ball more, because you know what? That will keep a 43-year-old quarterback upright in the pocket. Pat, I'm sure you would agree with that. You and I have had some debates before. I mean, what's the most runs they had in a single game this season? Was it 20?
22?
They had 23 or 24 last night. I think the most we had in one game was against Carolina when Fournette went off for almost 170, 180
He only had 12 carries that game.
That one is around 30,
I think.
32.
Well, and I agree with you that we're a pass-first offense. There's no risk it, no biscuit. But when you're talking about a Washington football club with 4 number ones on a D-line still within 8 points or 10 points, and you take a foot off because you take away the screen pass, which was very successful, and you're going to now's when we're going to bend them over and give it to them hard. And if 2 of those 3 and outs go out and you give that defense a little momentum, a Mo word, right?
Mo, baby.
You give these 22-year-olds momentum and the belief, hey, we got a chance against the GOAT. And again, I think Byron Leftwich called a great game. I think he's starting, in the last couple of weeks, but especially last night, he's starting to make an argument for why he should be considered for one of these open positions, if not in 2021, maybe in 2022. No. But I don't know why.
No.
Oh, go ahead, Pat.
No, not even close.
That was the first half of that game was priceless last night.
Leftwich came out on fire play calling. When they came out in the second half, and let's give credit where credit is due. This kid, Taylor Heineke, this kid played his ass off.
Yeah,
why he's not in the NFL, I do not know. And if Washington plans on being successful next year, I understand Alex Smith has had a good career, but you got to consider this kid Heineke. With that offense, with Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, you got the 2 Sims boys, you got Antonio Gibson, you got J.D. McKissick. That's a good offense with a really good defense. They got to consider this kid next year.
Oh, I think, yeah.
This kid and any other quarterback would be on nerves last night. This kid played.
He was ice.
Like it was a national championship game or a Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
Pat, I got a question for you, and I know how much of a Buck fan you are. I know how much of a Buck fan you really are, Pat. I mean, one of the biggest Buck fans I've ever seen in any kind of sport, to be honest with you. And I'm going to ask you a hard question. Had it not been for Minter tipping that pass and my boy intercepting it right into his hands, and they had that momentum going down the field, and then the bonehead play after Tampa scored and then Washington went down and scored and tried the onside kick, what do you think we're talking about today had that pass not got tipped?
Oh, we're probably talking a different outcome.
Yep.
A lot, yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's a game of inches.
Oh, you gotta also remember the drop pass by the safety. Fuck, I'm having a brain fart right now. Where he threw it up and it hit him right. He overthrew Logan Thomas, and it hit him right in the breadbasket. And he dropped it.
I saw.
3 points out of that as
I'm
well.
telling you, all I watched last night is that kid Hankey getting big chunk after big chunk, either with his arm or with his feet. Tampa was not prepared for this young man. But you know what? I'm not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer here. This was the game that they needed to win. This was the game that everybody said that they were going to just blow out of the water. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, I kept saying that this team is really good. And everybody's talking about they got no offense. If Tampa scores first, they're just going to run away with the game. And then I even jumped on board with it. I mean, I started going against what I was seeing with my own eyes. But the benefit of this is that game was a lot closer than what people think. And I'm going to tell you right now, that was the game that the Bucs needed to win, because you know why? It got all those little jitterbugs and the whoopsies right out of the game. You're not going to see Godwin drop 5 passes again, okay? And I'm not trying to jump on that narrative. That's an anomaly. Okay, I know that, but, you know, that was an anomaly. This team will come together, and it's just beginning. I am telling you now, this team is definitely, if you thought they were prepared for yesterday's game before the game went on, that wasn't as prepared. It almost looked like they were looking past Washington for a little while when they realized they were getting into a dogfight, realizing that Washington actually had an offense. It was the defense everybody was working about.
We've got to get pressure. There's got to be more pressure. I know we've got the average age of our defensive line is 62 and a half. With Ndamukong and, of course, JPP with a little bit of leg injury. I'm kidding, of course. But, man, we've got to get pressure. And we've been saying this, a great front end makes up for a bad back end.
And they always say that you have to blitz more to get more pressure. I say hogwash. You know what I really want to say? Stop blitzing so much, Tampa. You will generate that pressure, because every time you're blitzing, you are leaving the flats open because you're not getting out of that zone coverage. It is very easy. I understand. Go ahead, Pat.
Next week, whoever we play, I don't believe Jared Goff or Drew Brees are mobile quarterbacks like Heineke.
No.
Correct?
No.
Okay. That's one less thing we got to worry about, because we had Heineke 4 or 5 times.
Oh, my gosh, for loss. And the guy,
he got out of it. He's elusive. He got out of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Brees
keep.
ain't doing that. Neither is Jared Goff.
I don't want to keep
true.
pounding that drum about what I thought and how close the game should have been. Look, the bottom line is the Buccaneers won. This was a game that was tougher than what.
We won't go down that road here.
Right. They. I'm telling you now, this was the game that was really scary. They won. They will learn from this. The players that were nervous, they've got it out of their system. I feel horrible for the next team that they play, because those mistakes they made in this game, trust me, are not happening in the next game.
And don't forget, guys, Chicago beats us this season. The legend that is Cairo Santos comes through in the clutch for the Chicago Bears.
NFC Special Teams Player, not of the week, the month.
And so, but you're talking about the Saints. We're talking about how hard it is to beat the same team 3 times in one season. And we talk about the Bucs being able to stop Drew Brees. So, who do you want to see next week? Obviously, if we're at home here, that's one thing. But who would you like to see us most like to play there, Pat, next week?
I want to see the Rams.
Is there any word on?
I want revenge. Knowing what we just did to that defensive line of Washington, the Rams are right there, top 5 as D line. And I don't know what the extent to the injury to Aaron Donald is.
Yeah.
Golf re-broke his finger last night, but he said he's okay.
It was purple.
One's in the hospital.
Cooper Kupp has got a strained MCL in his right knee. And I just think it's a revenge game. We're going to be at home. We're going to have probably no fans or limit capacity on fans, because of the spike that's going on right now in COVID.
Right.
But either way, I think we'll be ready.
And by the way, Pat,
we'll
now that you said something about the fans, I'm just letting you know, and I'm saying it on camera. No, you cannot have off Saturday or Sunday. Don't even give me the coughing crap when you want to call up because you want to go to the game. We'll have it on plenty at the shop,
brother. Hey, Pat, thanks for calling us today, man. Great talking to you. Let's do it again.
You hear him coughing? He's already starting.
Sorry, I'm coughing already.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it,
Pat. What time you heading back from Orlando or what from the Gulf today? You're gonna obviously you're not gonna tee off till about noon, eh?
We're teeing off about 1 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm actually sitting outside of a restaurant in Tampa right now eating breakfast.
I love
then we're heading out, and I'll probably be heading back around 5, 6 o'clock.
You know, Hardee's is not a restaurant, Pat. I'll explain to everybody off the air. Okay, I'll explain to everybody off the air. Pat, thank you so much for calling, brother.
You guys take care and enjoy your day. And Harry.
Yes, sir.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Da Bears.
Da Bears.
Da Bears.
I love you, Pat. Talk to you soon, brother.
See you,
Love
man.
you guys.
Much
Take
love,
care.
brother. You take care.
I love Pat.
You can go through some
Let's
of
do
those,
these
maybe.
comments. I can't believe this. We got some comments today. It's Victory Sunday from the Deck Barn Grill here at Isla del Sol. Jeremiah says, awesome. Willow says, nice cap. I found Waldo. Is that my cap? Oh,
What's Waldo? Never mind. Go ahead.
Dave Cutler says it's cold down there. It's not that cold. We could actually strip a layer off, but I don't want that Bears jacket off because we're rooting for those Bears today. And you talk about the fact that the Rams come in here and Pat talks about getting revenge and the fact that now we've got to worry about if the Rams are going to pull someone in off the street again, because wouldn't that just be the narrative this week?
They have to. They have no quarterback.
Well, Jared Goff,
it's
right?
looking like that Jared Goff probably isn't going to play if they want the kid to have a future. I mean, they don't want to lose a thumb.
Is there a chance that the Niners cut and the Rams sign
Josh
Rosen?
Can I say it again? Let's do it 3 times. Josh Rosen.
That's for you.
That
Rick
would
Hughes.
be hilarious.
Rick Hughes, by the way, showing up here last night.
That
Rick
was
Hughes.
awesome.
Oh, Rick, the man. And don't forget, you'll be joining Rick from the cheap seats tonight here on Bucs Report at 9 p.m.
They have to tune into that show because I'll tell you what, he has a segment. There's 2 of them.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm not even going to tease it.
Oh,
yeah,
no?
I'm going to kind of tease it.
I could maybe grab it. I wish I had it on my
I'm
laptop.
not going to say what it is, but you need to tune into that show because you need to strap on and hold yourself down, baby, because I'm telling you, he's coming tonight.
Bo says, the Greek. Tim Witherspoon says, Victory Sunday. Yes, Bo also says, I won money listening to the Greek. Let me tell you something. Getting in, you lock into the Bucs at 7.5. The point spread goes to 10. The Bucs end up winning by 8.
You know, it's really ironic. I was touting that game, and I thought 8 points was too much. When it was at 9, I said it was too much, and then it went to 8. And then I was ready to pull the trigger, so then I made what they call an if wager. And I had it pre-programmed in the computer.
Right.
That if it went to 7.5, to go ahead and lay X amount of dollars. It went to 7.5 for 10 minutes. The next morning when I woke up, they announced that Alex Smith wasn't playing, and it jumped to 10. And then I got involved in all the excitement, and I have to publicly apologize for telling people to bet that 10 points.
Well, no, but the beautiful part is now I just got that. Because we were driving down here to the deck. We've been here for a while. We were setting up all this new equipment you got. And you asked me, do I understand the stock market? And I said, well, my mom worked in stocks. And my Aunt Mary, bless her soul, who's enjoying the hell out of Victory Sunday from above with a lot of my family, big Buccaneer fans. And you're talking about that if wager you make. It's just like in stocks where you say, okay, put in an if. If it goes below this or above this, buy or sell.
Right.
You put in the if. If it goes to 7.5, you hit it at 7.5. It shoots to 10. Literally, it was at 7.5 for 10 minutes. You said
10 minutes. That line was there. But I will say something because I was kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth last night because people were asking me about the total. People don't realize that total yesterday was 45, and I said that's the lowest point total that the Buccaneers have had all year long. And I heard comments like, "What are the Bucs could score 45 on their own?" But the reason why it was 45 is because they thought it was going to be a defensive struggle game. So I said, go ahead and play the Bucs on the good side of caution,
right?
But play the under. Lay the 10 and play the under. But if you think Washington is getting too many points and you play Washington, you shoot the over. And that's really simple mathematics. That means that Washington was going to score points.
And let me make a point here because you say talking out of both sides of my mouth. Everybody sees football differently. Some people love the running, the passing. Some people drive the analytics. Some people just look out and go, it's below 38 degrees and the Bucs have trouble below 38. You're not talking out of both sides of your mouth. People are going to look at these games differently. What you're saying is you've analyzed all the data, and if you're looking for the over, this would be an entry or an exit point. If you're looking under this, obviously because you're thinking the Bucs defense so you're not just talking out both sides of your mouth. You're literally just laying out the reason why people make logical arguments for both sides. You're not telling them at the end of the day, take your mortgage and go bet this. You're just laying out the best you can all the data you've analyzed.
No, and that's a really good point. I appreciate the compliment.
No, it's true. That's how I take it. I don't gamble.
I will give a perspective on both sides. I don't ever want anybody to think that I'll be right either way that it goes. It wasn't a game that I was truly, truly in love with because I knew that there were going to be some wrinkles.
We knew that defense was going to be there for Washington.
And I'm just letting people know when you hear me talking about both sides of the game, I'm giving you my opinion on what I'm actually seeing in these games, how it can actually vary on each team. Remember, there's a couple of things you can't handicap when you're watching tape work. You can't handicap unlucky breaks, very poor officiating. You just can't handicap that.
Yeah.
And last night, I'm telling you now, if you would have gave me $1, I'd have gave you a donut. If you would have told me that was going to be an offensive shootout
with Rojo on the bench going in, and we got another caller here. Let's go ahead and take. I don't know if this could be anybody. Good morning, caller. Where are you calling from, and what's your name?
My name's Justin, and I'm calling from St. Pete. How you guys doing today? It looks a little chilly out there.
Good, Justin. It's not so bad. It's actually really beautiful. Let me tell you something. Maybe we'll end up.
Yeah, I was thinking about coming out there and joining you for some of that shrimp.
The shrimp.
Let me tell you something. That shrimp.
That Walker's Wood shrimp, Justin, is absolutely to die for.
Was that the breaded or not breaded? That was the breaded.
No. It's not breaded.
Because
it's almost very similar to what they're going to do with the shrimp scampi, but they put these two baguettes, another French Leo word, baguettes, and they have that sauce over the top of it. Yeah. Kiss my you know what.
BAGGUETTES. But go ahead.
Go ahead, Justin. Sorry about that.
Yeah, not a problem. The reason why I'm calling is I want to thank the Greek. I want some money. I'm paying off my Christmas bill. The credit cards are coming down slowly but surely. I'll make it short and sweet. Greek, I need some picks. I got to pay off the rest of these credit card bills.
Do you want to talk about today's games while we got Justin on
I'd love to talk about today's games. Justin, that's really cool. While I have you, you want to stay on the line or you just want to get off and listen?
Oh, no, let's keep them. Okay.
Because I'm going to come down there probably eventually, maybe a little bit later today. I don't know how long you guys will be down there.
Brother,
down there. I heard it's fantastic.
Let me tell you something. The food is, and I will not lie to you. If I wasn't already on, and if I wasn't wearing some new merch I got from, Santa left under the tree for me this year, this sweatshirt would be already going off. It is so beautiful. They're saying high in the mid 50s today, and the food is rocking. Cedric's he's got our show on over here. I just realized that. 55-inch televisions outside here, so you can do the socially distanced thing, responsible, get inside, enjoy some of this great food, and the people here and the staff are just fantastic at the Deck Barn Grill. Go ahead, Harry.
Justin, I'm going to give you 3 games for today because there's only 3 games. You got Baltimore, Tennessee, Chicago's at New Orleans, and Cleveland's at Pittsburgh. The Baltimore-Tennessee game, I can go on and on and on. Do I love the game? No. But I'll tell you one thing. The total in this game is 55 points. I like the under in the game. I don't like a side. But if someone backed me into a corner, I'd have to say take Tennessee plus the points. I'm not a believer in what I've seen in the last 4 or 5 games from the Baltimore Ravens. However, they've been playing extremely well.
They have,
but you cannot be a one-dimensional quarterback and be that successful. So that being said, Baltimore's probably going to blow them out. But I do like the under.
I like it. I like the Tennessee
and
the under. But go ahead, tell us about the second AFC game. That's the evening game.
That'll be the Cleveland Browns are at the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got coaching staff that's out.
I think we lost Justin. That's okay. Go ahead, keep going about.
You got the
game.
Coaching staff that's out. Okay, Stefanski's not out there, but again, people, he doesn't play.
Alex Van Pelt. Can you remember Alex Van Pelt? I remember when this guy was in diapers, literally. That's how old I'm getting. But now he's calling the plays this week. He said he's going to try to call the exact type of game Stefanski to win. And let me just preface this. The Cleveland Browns went into Pittsburgh last week and actually won to get into these playoffs. Of course, they lose their left guard or left tackle and their coach. But you don't think Pittsburgh was looking at them, letting them think this is a trap game?
No, it's not a trap game. It really isn't. But I'm going to tell you right now, Cleveland, they're getting 6.5 points. They're missing someone. I think it's due to COVID or it's an injury. Stefanski's not going to be out there. But let me tell you something.
Joe Bitonio, the left tackle, or the offensive lineman, I think is the one. Yeah.
Pittsburgh's not going to run the football. Cleveland does not have a bad defense. They have an extraordinary defensive end. That's really, I think it's Myles Garrett. An extremely good.
He shows up.
Okay, if he shows up, it could be a spell on a long day. You could take a mediocre defense against Pittsburgh, knowing that a team is going to be one-dimensional and constantly passing the ball, and you will get pressure because you're not having the run. You're not having the guard against the run.
Right.
But here's my key to the game. I kind of like this game. I kind of like Cleveland getting the 6.5 points, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Cleveland is going to run the football because they know that Pittsburgh passes the ball literally on every single down.
Clock control.
Okay.
Nick Chubb. What could be Ben Roethlisberger's last game? I mean, literally could be.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, if they run that ball and control it, it cuts down the number of options Ben Roethlisberger has to find those wide receivers that are pretty good there in Pittsburgh. And it makes it. What's the over-under on this game again, you said?
It's 47.5. And you want to know something? Bet the over. That's a safer play. But if you want to make a small parlay with a very small position, take the points with Cleveland and bet over 47.
I like it.
And going into the last game, which is the middle game, coincidentally,
Which
that
is
everybody
the best
wants
game
to know.
The most important game of the day for Buccaneer fans, the Chicago Bears at those New Orleans Saints.
This game opened up originally at New Orleans -7. And as the injury reports and people weren't practicing, the line kept climbing up. It's now all the way up to 10.5 points. Theoretically, Vegas, the people, everybody's given Chicago zero chance in this game. I can sit here and give you a 10-minute dissertation about why I think the Bears can beat the Saints today, but everybody has probably already heard it. Just remember this. If they get good play from the middle linebacker position, because Roquan Smith, arguably the best, if not one of the best defensive players they have, doesn't play, and he's not playing, the backup, the guy who's stepping in is going to have to play very well because someone has to shade and follow Alvin Kamara. And I wouldn't mind to see one of the safeties do that. Here's the key. Mitch Trubisky.
I was going to ask this. Let me ask this first.
It's not David Montgomery. It's Mitch Trubisky.
Do you think
in
that
this game.
the Chicago Bears taking the cue maybe from a Buffalo Bills team that let Josh Allen just run all over the place and control the ball? Do you think they finally unleash Mitch today and they just let him run to set up the other things that the Chicago Bears can do against that Saints defense?
I don't expect everybody to say that they've watched a lot of games. I watch literally every game every week for reasons for handicapping.
Oh, I know for sure. I know that to be true.
The last 6 weeks, they have been finally calling plays for Mitch Trubisky. That's because Matt Nagy gave up his play calling duties. My hat is off to you, Mr. Nagy, because you were losing your job this year if you didn't do something.
And we called it because right when the Bears started winning again, we said he was one of the people that we for sure thought was going to get fired. But he lets the offensive coordinator actually start calling those plays, and he starts calling those rollouts because that's where Mitch Trubisky seems most dangerous is on those rollouts.
Without question. And I'm also going to say another thing. It's going to be on Mitch Trubisky's shoulders. He has a plethora of wide receivers and tight ends, and he's got a really, really good running game. If they can control that line of scrimmage and play kind of close to the vest and not put Mitch into situations where he's having to fit it in a 2-foot window,
right?
This can be a very competitive game because you have to remember back in week 6, they came back and tied the game with half the team decimated. Forget about what was decimated on defense. I'm talking about 4 offensive linemen.
And they were calling that wasn't when they were calling this offense.
Nope.
They weren't rolling this offense.
Nope.
And that's why, guys, don't forget again, the Chicago Bears in a 3:30 game at New Orleans, they beat those Saints. The Rams are coming here next week to Raymond James Stadium for the divisional round of the playoffs. And then you talk about those Bears going back to Green Bay, and you talk about a little bit bad, division seasonal blood between the two, step brothers and sisters, if you will.
Yep.
And if for some reason, hey, let's go ahead and let's hypothesize it out. I want to come back to that Chicago game, but Chicago goes and wins in Green Bay, wins a battered stepbrother game, and we beat those battered Rams that don't have a quarterback. Where's the NFC Championship game?
An old NFC North battle where your Chicago Bears are playing your Tampa Bay Buccaneers
right here at Raymond James Stadium. And then you talk about, let's just go.
That's a long shot, by the way. And if anybody wants to know, prior to the playoffs, that particular matchup was plus 7,000 for every 100 that you won. So that's how far-fetched it is.
Did you play that option?
I can't nor confirm nor deny that, for Internal Revenue Service purposes. But anyway, but I will tell you this. Anything can happen on any Sunday.
Maybe
Washington played a hell of a game against Tampa. The Rams handed Seattle their jockstrap.
Yeah.
Completely.
100%.
Nothing would surprise me. Just because you're 10 points, those teams don't know it. Listen, they may be a 500 ball club, and if they didn't get boneheaded and put Nick Foles in there, they wouldn't even be in this position anyway because they could have been a number 2 or a number 3 seed.
And you talk about, I always hear on Cup of Ray and on Cup of the Ray, Harry the Greek. Let's just call it that. I can do that. But I always talk about symmetry. And you talk about, we were talking about how the NFL got through 256 games and never had to cancel it. It was the first time in the history of the NFL that they played games on all 7 days of the week. But you talk about the NFL back in October, there was maybe people saying that maybe the NFL is looking at a playoff bubble between LA and Dallas. Of course, the Super Bowl 55 being played right here in Tampa Bay over at Raymond James Stadium. But if Chicago beats the Saints today, and then they go beat the Packers next week, the Bucs could beat the Rams here at home. You'd have the NFC Championship game right here in Raymond James Stadium.
I would love it.
And then the Super Bowl 2 weeks later. So the NFL, from that standpoint, would almost have their playoff bubble for the NFC Championship game. They could start moving some resources down here for that bad boy. And then the Super Bowl's here 2 weeks later. You'd still have to make sure your AFC team gets here. And, of course, we'll see how those chips fall with today's 2 games and the 2 victories yesterday for the Bills. Who else? Oh, no, yesterday was 2 AFC. So the Bills yesterday. And, of course, you have – let's go back to that Chicago Saints game. Did you you said the over-under on that game was what again?
I think it's 48. I just needed to verify here.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I want you to go ahead and do that because I said
and I'm kind of you know what? Listen, New Orleans is an extraordinary defense, but they do struggle against mobile quarterbacks. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just put that out there because you can confuse them.
And don't forget the Buccaneers, for as great of a year as Tom Brady's had here and continues to have with 22 of 40 yesterday or 22 of 30 for over 350 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But he's not a mobile quarterback. And of course, the Buccaneers saw that when he was in the pocket, he's one-dimensional. And of course, we talk about Drew Brees being one-dimensional. But Mitch Trubisky's got to get outside that pocket today, and they've got to let this kid roam because he's a fourth-year veteran.
Yep.
And Chicago doesn't pick up the option year for next year, so they're going to have a come to Jesus meeting.
They're either going to have to sign him or whatever. That's a different rabbit.
Oh, no, we talked
that's
about
a different rabbit hole we're going to go down. But I will give you some picks in this game. Chicago's getting 10.5 points. The over and under is 48, and I'm going to give you both sides of the game. If you think that New Orleans is going to cover the 10 points, bet the under in this game. However, just like I said about the Tampa Bay game versus Washington, if you think that the Chicago Bears will cover the 10 points, the 10.5, which I think they can, this game is going over because, look, even though that Drew Brees is a shadow of what he was to start the year, remember, he's coming off the 100 broken ribs, whatever the case is. He's sore, okay? Yes, they are at full strength with Kamara and Thomas coming back, but how much rust does Thomas have on him? Chicago generally does a very good job containing Alvin Kamara, but without Roquan Smith, that could be a little bit questionable.
Without Roquan, too, because I'm counting on Roquan to also cover Taysom Hill when he comes in and tries to run those that offensive system where Taysom gets outside. Roquan's a big cup of boy, and he could definitely put Taysom on his backside, but that's a definitely important piece.
So here's the pick. I like Chicago getting the 10.5, and I like the over because I think this game is going to be a pretty high-scoring game. Don't be surprised if the Bears actually beat this team.
I love it
today. Because New Orleans is already looking past this team. Trust me when I tell you this. A little bit the same way how they felt when the Bucs were going into Washington. They're huge favorites. Trust me, these players know that they're huge favorites.
I'm going to go back to comments right here. Bo Turner actually said, he said here, Jeremiah says, happy Bucs Day. It is. It's a happy Bucs Day here in Tampa Bay. Of course, Mayor, who's the mayor of Tampa again?
Some lady. I keep forgetting her name.
Mayor Kreisman's here in St. Petersburg, but over in Tampa, it's
a
Castor.
Lady. Castor, yes.
Is it Betty Castor?
Jane Castor.
Jane Castor, right? So she had they dropped the flags over at City Hall this week. And that was fantastic. You saw that here on Bucs Report. It was on the Bucs Twitter page. Jeremiah says, Ray. Hey, Ray. Jeremiah says DUI on private practice. I'm not sure where we're going with that, but that's okay, Jeremiah. I got you, brother. Ellen Rappaport says, go Bucs. Ellen Rappaport, yes, go Bucs on a Sunday here. Victory Sunday here from the Deck Bar and Grill at Isla. Carter Levi says, what happens with Rojo? Keith Larson says, injured quad in pregame warm-up. Adam Perdomo Rivera says, how about AB last night? What about AB? You know what? I got to tell you something. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say this. I had a chance to watch the game last night. with my wife and my kids, and we hadn't watched the game all year and had some family stuff going on. And I wasn't down here for the. We'll be here next year for the divisional round, but it was such a. You want to know, and go back to the fact that my family did that, and you know this because you were literally neighbors. They were out of town for 4 months earlier this year, between April and then to the end of July, and it was social. Doing the.
I won't tell your wife what you were doing though.
God, please don't. But my wife. And I love you, Kathleen. Thank you so much. She knows.
No, he does love you, Kathleen. I swear to you, he does.
No, I'm saying this because I knew that she knew. But they showed Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich on the bench, and I paused it. And I said, did you hear about what happened with them? She's like, I don't remember. I said, back when we first signed Brady in March, he walked into I said, how all the McMansions look in Tampa and all the houses look the same. And it's all over here in Florida. And it's probably where you guys are all over the United States and or the world. And I hope you guys are continuing to stay safe here in 2021. The year's looking really great. Good start to the year, especially for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I said, Tom walked into the wrong house and the neighbor, and she's like, oh yeah, I kind of knew about it. And then later on in the game, I'm pausing it when they show AB. And I said, Antonio Brown, I said, here's one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. Got the biggest contract in the history of wide receivers last year when he goes out to Oakland. And it started last season. And I said, but he didn't want to change his helmet. And I'm explaining the narrative to her. And then my daughter, my 10-year-old's going, why is he kind of? And I said, let's just say he's a very passionate player. And maybe he's taken a 1 or 2 hits to the head, but that doesn't make him a bad guy. It's just that he had his way. He liked his helmet and he didn't want to change. I said, but the Bucs get him for $1 million. And my daughter's like, wow, and my daughter, my 10-year-old, that was fortuitous. I'm like, Leo word. And then
fortuitous.
And I'm pausing the game.
I'm gonna write that down.
Fortuitous, FRUITITIOUS. But anyway,
I hate you.
I know FRUI. Anyway, so and then we get to the Leonard Fournette, and I'm explaining to my daughter that Leonard Fournette goes in the first round. He's in Jacksonville. Some considered him a troublemaker, and I'm explaining. And as I'm explaining this to my family, we're watching the game. Of course, we're fast forwarding during commercials, and I'm just realizing how beautiful of a team this really is. And I don't want to use the word destiny. And I don't want to use the word Super Bowl or bust or the term because it's not. The Buccaneers went 11-5. They won their first playoff game since 2003, since we marched all the way to San Diego and beat those Oakland Raiders, who are now the Las Vegas Raiders in Super Bowl 37. First victory in 17 years. Of course, it's the first playoffs in 13 years. But I'm explaining to my family all these special pieces, and I didn't even get the chance to get to Gronkowski because they really didn't go to Gronk too much. But he's in there looking great, and they're showing him on the graphics. And, of course, it all centers around having Tom Brady at quarterback. And, Harry, I don't know about you, but sometimes I find myself just sitting there and just contemplating how special this team really is and how beautiful it really is. And I'm like, it's a great time. It's a great day to be a Buccaneer fan.
You know what? I've been in Florida, for many, 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 many years. And I root for football in general. I've never really had allegiances. I've been, relatively partial to the Buccaneers. I've really became a Buck fan this year. I mean, a true hardcore Buck fan. So you can call me a bandwagoner. There's nothing wrong with it. People, let me tell you something. 13 years since this team has been in the playoffs. Really enjoy this. I mean, I'm not talking in the
The fact of the matter is, we got sound now. I don't know, somehow it muted. But the fact of the matter is, Washington, the Buccaneers go into Washington, and the last thing we wanted for all these Buccaneer players who were for the first time getting their first taste of playoff football to have nothing but success. And with the drop passes and the defense be unable to get that pressure. And of course, I was just mentioning before we realized the sound had muted. I was just mentioning that, of course, we lose Devin White this week because of COVID protocol. And the Saints, of course, they get back Kamara today for their game against the Chicago Bears. But the fact of the matter is, hopefully the players got home last night from Washington, did that socially responsible thing, stayed distance. And remember, we still got and I'm sure Tom is preaching this from his soapbox. We still have business to do. And we saw him say it last night. We saw Bruce Arians say that. We didn't come here just to make this show. We came here to win that ring. If you're not trying to win rings every season.
You know what? That would be a good rap song. That could be Tampa's.
The ring?
It almost sounded like that Super Bowl Shuffle jingle.
I'm trying to think. Okay, wait. So we'll decimate you. You'll be a goner.
Hat on backwards.
We're winning rings to make that ring of honor.
Yeah, it's something like that. Don't worry. He's trying.
Let's go back to the comments again. Tim Witherspoon says that was Whitehead that dropped that interception, the safety. That was the last night's game. Tim Witherspoon also says, I think most analysts overlooked the football team because of their 7-9 record. They played over their head and will be a force in the future. That was a really good football team game last night. Football team the Bucs beat last night. Go Bucs. And without a doubt, Ron Rivera, have they given out Coach of the Year yet? Because as much as we talk about all these coaches and some of the things the coaches have done, and down at Flores and in Miami and stuff like that.
How do you give it to Ron Rivera, though? I mean, the record is what the record is.
He had the cancer though, and he had the injury, and he cuts Haskins.
I feel bad that he had the cancer and he was sick and everything
I'm not
else.
saying you don't.
Right, but that has to go to the team that really, you know what? I shouldn't have said that.
No, who do we like as Coach of the Year? I mean, I'm trying to think.
Who do I like?
Top of my head,
honestly.
Yeah,
Flores in Miami.
Florida, and I think that's what we talked about, the fact what he's done with that team. Of course, some people say Sean McDermott with those Buffalo Bills, but
no, they were supposed to be good.
Yeah, I mean, they've been getting better because he's been building them the last few years, getting that defense going. But maybe we'll work back to that. Guys, don't forget the phones are working. And the audio's up now, too, 727-239-9792. Call in. We'd like to hear about your comments from last night's game. Tim also says, today I'm a huge Bears fan. The Bears, Tim Witherspoon.
Hey, Tim, how are you, buddy?
Great guy. The Bears. I think Harry Berg says, Misador says, Harry Berg, pull your weight. Misador says, go Bears. I like how me spells it go. Geaux.
Hey, do me a favor. Do that again.
Do what again?
I want to see him say, go Bears.
Right here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go Bears.
Yeah, there's a personal reason for it. Him and I got a little history on the internet. Don't we, me?
Oh, he's the one.
He's awesome.
Christopher Cole says Kappa is a beast, and they had to drag him off the field with a broken ankle. Yeah.
Yep. That's a shame what happened to him. But you know what? Ted Larson, he got the boogaboos out of him, and I hate to use that word, but he's going to be very serviceable.
He shook the rust off.
Yeah, he did. He showed the cheeks on a couple of plays, but that was about it.
Eric says, my Bucs Zubas came in. Eric got some Zubas. He probably ordered them. I read an article this week in Tampa Bay Times about the throwback gear and all the old stuff and all the old gear that Buccaneer fans have had forever and ever, and how it's come back around and it's gotten popular. So, yeah, put on those Zubas. Eric Scott says, the Bears. Andrew Faubert says, wearing toques in Florida in January.
What are toques?
It's a Canadian thing.
Because I know what a toque is, but that's not the same thing he's mentioning.
That's not the toque he's referring to, no.
The dude knows what a toque is.
Sajid Garcia says, is that a Bears fan? Yeah,
Where?
we're all Bears fans today, aren't we?
Today, everybody's a Bears fan.
Of course, the Bears beat those Saints who they took to overtime in week 6 of this season.
No, they lost to the Saints.
Well, they took to overtime. But if they beat the Saints today, that means that we would be hosting the Rams in next week's divisional wildcard game. So we're all Bears fans today, whether you've liked the Bears or not at some point in history. Christopher Cole says, I have a question. Do the Jaguars pick Fields or Lawrence? Lawrence with the hiring of Urban Meyer.
They're going to hire if they did hire Urban Meyer, they're going Trevor Lawrence. Take that to the bank.
Even though Meyer recruited Fields, no, he didn't recruit Fields, but he was at Ohio State. He probably has a lot of inside information on this kid.
Look, I don't think that. Look, I honestly believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to Jacksonville.
What if you're the Jaguars, though, picking number 1? And I get you. I understand.
And hold on, Jacob, you're much better off with Sam Darnold and/or Fields.
Josh Rosen. Oh,
no,
no,
not
Fields. Let me tell you something.
Hang on, something just came out of the camera pointed at you.
Oh, but if I'm the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer signs as the head coach, and I've got the number 1 overall pick, and there is one of the other 31 other teams. Of course, the Bucs will be picking 32nd after winning Super Bowl 55. But no, it's not. But if Jacksonville's on the clock, which they already are at this point, and there's another team in that top 10 desperate enough to call and say, or even if it's like let's say it is the New York Jets, and they call, say, we've got the largest market in football. Sam was a bust. We need Trevor Lawrence to save our butts. We'll give you this, or this in a number 2 or our number 1 next year.
They won't do it. The fans in Jacksonville will burn that stadium down.
Or will Khan continue
burning?
Will Khan continue working towards getting that team eventually moved over to England to play in a soccer stadium that he owns over there already? He's already moved some of the games away from Jacksonville for the home games. The Jacksonville fans are pissed off year in and year out about the fact that he's already moved 2 games a year to England. I mean, at what point do you not think?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. When he's paying Urban Meyer all that money, the fans are clamoring for Trevor Lawrence. He's going to Jacksonville. I'm serious. That whole city will go on its head and riot, literally.
Yeah.
If they don't draft him.
Good question, Christopher Cole. Love it. Saeed says, no question, it's Lawrence. That's like picking Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning 22 years ago.
What was wrong with that pick?
What was Ryan Leaf's famous line in the locker room? I'm a man. No, that was the other guy, the coach. But Ryan Leaf, what does he say to the reporter?
The one he wanted to beat the crap out of?
When he gets up and gets in his face.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, Ryan's had some bad. He had another. I think he got arrested again earlier this year. So we'll throw some warm vibes out to Ryan Leaf. Continue finding the path, my friend.
He needs God.
Eric Scott says, question for Ray. Do you like Chubbs today? I like Chubbs to go over. Of course, I like
Chubbs any day.
The
running back, folks. The running back.
Oh, okay. What I was going to say is that Chubbs goes over $1.25, 2 touchdowns today, and those Cleveland Browns play the under, and they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers to advance to the next round of the AFC. I'm not a Pittsburgh Steeler. I love Mike Tomlin, and I love what the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, we've talked about the fact with the NFL adding that 7th team this year, up from 6. Why we had 3 days of 3 games or 3 games a day for 2 days in a row.
Spit it out, Ray.
We talk about the fact that if they add this 7th team a decade ago, Pittsburgh's made the playoffs 9 of the last 10 years. Mike Tomlin continues to put that team in a position to win every year. That being said, I think when they lose to the Jets, they lose a couple of games. Ben Roethlisberger doesn't have the pieces around him he's had in the past. I still like the fact that the Cleveland Browns do have so many number 1 draft picks. I think Chubbs rushes for over $1.25 today, and the Browns beat the Steelers.
I don't have him going $1.25 in this game. I just don't. I do have him between the 90 and actually 80 and 90 mark, but I honestly think he's going to catch 40 or 50 yards out of the backfield. They're going to show that wrinkle. And if he does go for $1.25 and he still catches 40 or 50 yards out of the backfield, Cleveland definitely wins this game, because I'm telling you now, that will keep Ben Roethlisberger and company on the bench, because they have no running. Actually, let me correct that. They have a running back in Connor, one of the better running backs in football. But something happened there in Pittsburgh, and they decided that they don't know how to run the football anymore. Well, you know what? It's too late to learn how to develop a running game in today's game. These are the playoffs, guys.
Playoffs. Eric Scott says, if Rojo's out for multiple weeks, God forbid, I feel real good about having Leonard tooting the rock. And that's another thing I was explaining again to my wife last night. We get Leonard Fournette in here for $1 million.
Tampa fans, that's why they got Leonard Fournette here. Nobody wanted him, remember? Come to Tampa.
We want Rojo to get back, but even if he has to sit one more week, because you and I talked about this, the quad is one of those. It's like the hamstrings with Mike Evans back in the day. It's like these leg injuries with these players. Those quads, you can wrap them up tight, you can heat them, you can ice them. They don't heal that fast.
You can wrap it and heat it up all you want. If you're ending up in Green Bay, trust me, the moment that wrap comes off, that quad goes. Shrinkage in the quad.
You know what it's like? You said shrinkage, and I blacked out. Do you know what it's like going to Green Bay? And if the Bucs, of course, do have to go to Green Bay, and of course that would mean that the Bears end up losing today to the Saints. There's scenarios. Wait, no, we'd have to go to New Orleans first, because the Rams would actually be going to Green Bay.
Correct.
But if the game ends up, because the Rams are not going to beat Green Bay, and we'd of course beat those Saints, but if we end up in Green Bay in the championship game, that's 3 weeks from now. That still gives Fournette or Rojo a chance maybe to see if that quad gets healed.
Yep.
But man, talk about working right back to that comment Eric's making there.
with Leonard Fournette in the backfield, a bruising Leonard Fournette. Run him straight at that defensive line for those Green Bay Packers. And that cold, it hurts.
You know, I got to tell you, Green Bay fans are doing the same thing that Tampa fans are doing right now. Oh, we're going to play the Rams next week.
Yeah.
Tampa fans are saying, boy, I really hope we get to play the Rams next week. Green Bay fans, if anybody's watching, don't count your chickens before they're hatched, because I promise you, if they beat them, the Bears are coming for you. You ain't beating them 3 times this year.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, either way. And then Tim Witherspoon says the Harry Cup of Ray.
I like that.
That's the show from now on. Tim, you just
the Harry Cup of Ray.
I'm going to have a T-shirt made up that says the Harry Cup of Ray.
I kind of like Cup of Harry and Ray the Greek. Tell us what you think.
Call us right now, 239-9792. We're not going to be on too much longer, but we'll take your calls. We're celebrating, again, Victory Sunday here with the Buccaneers beating the Washington football team by the score of 31-23 last night in Washington to advance to the divisional round of the NFC playoffs. So let me go back to Eric Scott's comment here. How many players from our 02 to 03 team will be in the Hall of Fame if both Lynch and Rondé get in? 4. Next up is Simeon, my favorite Buck. That would be 4. Simeon would make 5, but we'd have to see about. Wait, yeah, that would be 5 because we've got Warren Sapp in there and Derek Brooks double nickels in there. Eric says, "In Mitch we trust." Definitely.
Who said that?
That was Eric Scott.
In Mitch we trust.
In Mitch we trust. Son of a Mitch. I said that loud so people.
Actually, for people that didn't know, he doesn't like to be called. Actually, he doesn't mind that he's called Mitch. His mother and father had a problem with it. Publicly came out and said, "It's Mitchell."
Yeah.
Call him Mitchell, please.
I like Mitch. Joshua Cole says Cup of Ray. Thanks, Joshua Cole Allen. He also says, "What's up, boys?" Hey, JAC. What's up, brother? JAC. Call in. Let's see here. Oh, this is when we started getting some of our comments. Landon Joseph said, "So you're going to be a Bucs fan when they're good?"
Yes.
Wait,
there's nothing wrong with that.
He's not talking to us.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to make sure.
I was a Buck fan. No, I made that comment about being a bandwagoner.
Oh, no. Eric Scott says, Ray said it best. It's a great day to be a Buccaneer fan. Haven't felt this way since I was 7 years old. Definitely, brother. Landon Joseph says, yes, there is something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with being a bandwagon.
Thank you.
Bandwagon. No, there's not. Who says that? The Landon also says, so you're going to be a Bucs fan when they're good.
It's exciting.
I'm excited. I'm an NFL fan when it comes to playoffs, and every year, of course, in last 13 years ago since we've made the playoffs. But as a Buccaneers fan, just over the 44 years of this team's existence, there's been quite a few times where the postseason comes around. It's after Christmas. We got that warm and fuzzy going. Santa left a bunch of stuff under the tree. We're all feeling good. We still have a hangover from the New Year's Day celebration, but the Buccaneers weren't an option celebrating the postseason. So then we start picking the teams that we're going to root for. So I don't call it a bandwagoner. But if you're a Buccaneers fan, or you know someone that now is a Buccaneers fan because Tom Brady's here, because they have Leonard Fournette, and they have Antonio Brown, and they have this number one offense, and they have this defense that looks great, and oh, by the way, they made it to the divisional round of the playoffs, I don't call that a bandwagon. I call that a fan of football that's picking the right team to get behind because this team's going all the way.
You know what I call that over on that table? Looks delicious. That's a Bloody Mary.
Oh, it does look good.
Yeah, it does. Never had one.
I'm going to buy you one. Wait, you're driving. Let's see. Kendrick Landon and Joseph says, I've stuck with my Bucs for 20 years, and I've been a diehard fan through everything. It's been a slap in the face. Good stuff.
That is.
Good stuff. Because here's the thing. The one thing a bandwagoner can't do, but I have no problem with, bandwagoner can't say I've been there since day one. A bandwagoner can't say I sat through the losses. A bandwagoner can't say I watched my dad burn his Mike Ray jersey following the season back in the 70s, or was it early 80s? I mean, bandwagoner can't have the history of the losing. They can enjoy the winning, and I'm not putting them down, but you have to walk through the desert and nearly die of thirst for that drink of water to taste like heaven.
Without question.
And for the Buccaneer fans that have been there through thick and thin and for 20 plus years and or your entire life, these rare instances, and of course in 2020, getting to the playoffs now in 2021 and seeing, especially in light of the year last year, savor the flavor, baby. Let's take it 1 week at a time. And this is Victory Sunday. I'm savoring the flavor.
You know what? Anybody who's been here since the beginning, those people are the original OGs.
The OGs.
Period.
Yeah.
Not me.
Let's see here. We got a couple more comments, and then we'll be getting out of here, my friend. We got a lot of people showing up here at the deck. They want to get some nice out here on the deck just to get a table and have a Bloody Mary and enjoy some of that shrimp.
Really, that Bloody Mary looks good.
Tim says there's no audio. Again, I apologize to everyone that stuck through the thick and thin, and there was a lot of thin there going. I think it was for about 10 minutes we had no audio.
Yeah, 10 minutes. But they could read lips.
No new taxes.
I'm getting political. Tim also says, thank God there's no audio because what he said is horrible.
What was he say?
Well, Tim said, Landon Joseph said, thank God there's no audio, because I will tell you, I dropped during that no audio period, I dropped 5 or 6 F-bombs. I mean, it got really bad here. That lady got offended. She walked away.
Not me. That was him.
That was me. Landon says, Peter would never have said that.
Peter never would have said what?
I have no idea, but Christopher Cole says sound. Sorry, guys, no sound. See all these comments, no sound. Sorry, I appreciate
no
you.
Sound.
Landon, I'd rather not hear from bandwagon fans. Hey, that's okay. You got it. If you're an OG, you don't have to listen to the new G. You're the OG. Yep. But there are new G, and hopefully there's probably, let's see, hold on a minute. Now, there was just another Buccaneers fan born over at St. Joseph's Hospital in Tampa Bay. Bring them all in, baby.
Oh, God.
Rohan Pahar says there is no voice coming. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. I can't hear them. Yeah, you didn't want to hear that part of the show. It got pretty tight there. Let's go down here to Bucs Time 12 said, this was the game we needed. I've been saying the Bucs needed a dogfight, and they needed a wake-up for the game. And the players, or they needed a wake-up game for the players and the coaches. Welcome to the playoffs, Bucs. And, let's leave that up there for a second. Isn't that so true? Because we smoked those Falcons and we had success in Detroit, but there were still things to look at, block kick, missed field goals last night with no pressure. There's still things to work on.
Yep.
But to have a tough game against a very good Washington team, really best defensive line in the NFL. And I'm saying because
they got exposed.
They got exposed. And also the fact that we found out that if we don't have the pressure on that quarterback, a Chris Heineken is going to find ways.
Heineken, please. Two.
Is going to find a way to, and of course, that's the Buccaneers' historical narrative with young quarterbacks or first-year quarterbacks or guys that came off practice squads, is that, maybe there's no, I don't know if it's because there's no film on them or whatever, but we got to get that. So this game last night, as great as the victory over the Washington football team was, it's enough of a wake-up call to say, hey, okay, we got to take care of business. There's still improvements to be made to get ready for next week.
Like I said earlier in the show, that was their get-over game. They made it through the first round of the playoffs. They struggled a little bit. Hats off to the Bucs coach and staff, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Way to keep Brady standing straight up, especially against that vaunted, Washington defense. But what mistakes they did make, they will clear that up. I promise you. I feel bad for the next team this team plays. I'm being honest.
And again, coming out in that third quarter, whatever they were looking to do. And of course, Washington, we talked about the fact that number one team against 44 points, you said, in the fourth quarter, or
44 points in the entire second half for the entire season. It's all Washington gave up. When I seen that statistic, I went,
crazy.
Oh boy.
You're talking about a team that makes adjustments at halftime. And of course, the Buccaneer coaches are making the adjustments, anticipating those Washington football team adjustments. I don't know why we don't throw the screen passes much more in the third quarter. We seem to go more, like you said, using like the Buccaneers, like the credo, like the no risk it, no biscuit philosophy is, using the pass to set up the run. And of course, we had the, Tyler Vaughn has that fumble, right? No, Keyshawn Vaughn. Tyler Vaughn. Pete always corrects me on that.
But I'm not saying anything. I mean, I
appreciate you.
To this.
But there was enough last night that happened, even in the glorious victory. And you have to keep everything still safe and continue to come home and make sure you maintain what's on the line for this team. But there was enough to build on last year. Or still for next year. Bucs Time says okay. And then P Pumpkin says, what's up with Alex Kappa? I think Alex is out for this after. Yeah,
he broke his foot.
Yeah, he's not going to be back. He can't be.
I think he did. That's what I had read. Or
that's
something
what it looked like.
That's horrible.
Christopher Cole says Rams have a ton of injuries yesterday, so whoever plays them might have a pretty darn easy. Yeah, wouldn't you like it to be the Bucs?
Absolutely. Sorry, Green Bay.
P Pumpkin says, with those coats on, are you in? This is actually a very thin, and you're heavy. Okay.
Listen,
anyway,
it's not a coat. It's a little sweat
jacket.
Hoodie.
It's a hoodie.
It's a hoodie. Yeah.
P Pumpkins or Eric Scott says, you guys are the bomb. Living the Greek cup of Harry Ray.
That's pretty good. Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother. Christopher Cole says Bucs fan since '85. Yes, sir. Christopher Cole says Brady may not be mobile, but he knows how to move in the pocket.
Yes, he does.
There's the end of our comments. I just wanted to go ahead and wrap the show up with final thoughts from you. First of all, final thoughts from last night's game. Let's do that first.
Final thoughts from last night's game. I'm thankful. That's it. I'm just thankful that the Buccaneers won that game and they found a way to win that game. And they didn't allow they allowed Washington to hang in there.
Mm-hmm.
but I'm thankful that they put them away. Two of the biggest plays of the games that I'm thankful for: the Minter tip pass, and the sack late in the game to put them completely out of reach. That was it. That's what I'm thankful for.
Yeah.
Hang on. You know what else I'm thankful for? My buddy right over here. That's what That's what I'm bringing my buddy up.
I'm thankful for some of that spaghetti I'm going to get later today.
Yes, you are.
I'm thankful for. I tell you what, I'm thankful for last night.
This isn't Thanksgiving, guys.
No, it's New Year, but I'm thankful that the Bucs didn't fall. Because that's what the narrative today would have been. It would have been Monday morning. Good Morning Football would have opened up on tomorrow. And at some point in the opening monologue, they would have said that the Buccaneers ran into a trap game. They ran into a 7-9 Washington football team that was in the NFC least, and they got trapped. And I would say that I would be like, no, this was one of the best defensive lines, and they got off, and Heineke had a great game. But I'm thankful for the fact, like you said, that the Buccaneers didn't fall into that trap. They seemed like they were on a business trip. I hope I see all 53 guys showing up at the stadium yesterday, probably wearing ties, because it seemed like they were on a business trip. They went into Washington and they took care of that business.
Yep, they did. Anyway, I'm saying goodbye. Everybody enjoyed the games today. All them Tampa fans, please, please, please put on that Chicago Bear gear, because you're going to be getting the LA Rams next week.
Yeah, and there's one more thing. Hold on a second,
What do you got?
I got one more thing here. I wanted to talk about this. Because I saw this on social media. Let me find it. My wife had sent to me.
Do.
All right.
Do.
Well, it was great. What Arian said on Levante David's sack. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great because we weren't tackling worth of shit the whole game. So
I couldn't believe that.
You love that. Arian
that.
makes that point pretty clear. Last night, I just wanted to go ahead and mention this real quick. 3 of the 6 women that are currently coaching in the National Football League were on the sidelines for both teams last night. Of course, with your Buccaneers is Lori Locust, who works with the defensive line, and then Marl Javadafar, who's one of our strength and conditioning coaches. And also last night, you had on a Washington sideline Jennifer King, who was a coach with the running backs and a Washington team. And somebody was out there saying, "Oh, it's not that big a deal. It's only a big a deal because you make it a sexist." No.
No, it is a big deal.
Make no bones about it. Women, and you see that with the NBA, and you see that with all sports, and women continue to make those inroads to show that there are some talented, women that'll know more about football than they'll forget more before they graduate from a national champion. How about Jamie? And they'll know this. So hats off to the fact that, again, last night, 3 of the 6 coaches, female women coaches in the NFL, 2 on the Buccaneers sidelines and 1 with those Washington football teams. And I think really that's about all I wanted to mention. That, and it was her story, not his story. But go Bears. Thanks for joining us out here today. I'm sorry we didn't have any audio in the middle there.
And go Bucs.
And go Bucs. Thanks for joining us here on Cup of Red. I hope everybody has a great day. Stay tuned for 9 o'clock tonight. If nothing in between then, maybe we'll spontaneously pop up at your house after Chicago beats those Saints when you start talking about hosting that game next week. If not, then you join Rick Hughes from the Cheap Seats tonight at 9 o'clock here on Bucs Report. For now, I'm Harry. I'm Rick Kennedy. This is my co-host, Harry the Greek Berg. And we're going to go ahead and exit with a little bit of a Cup of Ray montage. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Victory Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your NFL day.